Okay, good afternoon. I hope your experience in King Hall was a memorable one. Get all the students in there at once. It's pretty hectic, but hope you enjoyed it. So ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to introduce our luncheon guest speaker this afternoon. It's Mr. Walter P. Havenstein. Walter Havenstein is Chief Operating Officer and member of the Board of Directors for BAE Systems, a $31 billion global defense and aerospace company, as well as President and Chief Executive Officer of BAE Systems Incorporated, the company's wholly owned U.S. subsidiary, which employs some 55,000 employees worldwide and generates annual sales in excess of $15 billion. Mr. Havenstein previously served first as Executive Vice President and then as President of Sanders, a Lockheed Martin company, and remained as President of the unit after it was sold to BAE Systems in November 2000. Before joining Sanders in February of 1999, he had been Vice President and General Manager of the Strategic Systems Division for Raytheon at Falls Church, Virginia. Walt holds a bachelor's degree in aerospace engineering from the U.S. Naval Academy and a master's degree in electrical engineering from the Naval Postgraduate School. He served on active duty in the U.S. Marine Corps from 1971 to 1983, specializing in tactical communications and systems acquisition management, and completed his career in the Marine Corps Reserve in 1999. He was also a graduate from my high school in Potomac, Maryland, which is Winston Churchill. And ladies and gentlemen, one of our graduates here, Mr. Walter P. Havenstein.
Well, good afternoon. This is a perfect group for me to chat with. Folks who are interested in leadership. From time to time, people ask me how I got to be chief executive of a $20 billion business here in the United States, and especially having been a former Marine. And I tell them, I said, it all comes down to a couple things. And frankly, we're going to chat a little bit about them this afternoon when it comes to leadership. And a great deal of luck and persistence. I know many of you are not only studying leadership, but also thinking about your role as a leader. And to me, that's very, very encouraging. And I know the subject of this particular conference has to do with generational leadership, and I'll give you a little bit of my thoughts about leadership as it pertains to generational aspects of leading. It's nice to be back at the Naval Academy. As Mr. Wilgus said, not only did I attend school here at the Naval Academy, I was actually born in Annapolis, and my father graduated from this institution, and a good friend of ours is Father Jake LeBoon, whose nephew was a classmate of mine, and who we honor with the hall across the way. For those of you who are in uniform, and I know it's not everybody here, I would be remiss if I didn't say this to you. Thank you for your service to our country. As we say in New Hampshire, we are wicked proud of you. And I don't want to single you out, but frankly, from where I come from, I am delighted to be able to chat with you today. I cannot be more pleased to know that the Commander-in-Chief's Trophy once again resides in its rightful place here in Annapolis. Go Navy. And I understand this morning you heard from Stan Smith regarding decoding generational differetions. In his book, he identified 4 generational categories and labeled them veterans, baby boomers, Generation Xers, and the millennials, or what's come to be known as Generation Yers. And you can tell from just looking at me that you won't be surprised to know that I'm a baby boomer. And given that I'm a graduate of the Naval Academy, I could not agree more with one of Mr. Smith's statements regarding baby boomers, and I quote, "Work is an anchor in their lives." This statement definitely applies to me. even in its most literal sense. But to further elaborate and provide you with some context, I am currently, as Mr. Wilgus pointed out, a Chief Operating Officer at BAE Systems. It's a global defense company of nearly 100,000 employees worldwide. And while we are indeed global, we are concentrated in what we call 6 home markets, that being the United States, the United Kingdom, Sweden, South Africa, Australia, and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. As a result, we are a very diverse working group. And I understand that last year your conference focused on diversity. I can assure you, with 100,000 co-workers of many different cultures, races, religions, and generations, and as a leader at BAE Systems, I spend a significant amount of my time working to harness the vast diversity of thoughts represented by our talented workforce. I'm always looking for new ways to bring their individual and collective knowledge to bear in order to deliver the very best we have to offer our customers, and those customers are predominantly men and women in uniform deployed around the world, as well as in our home markets. In fact, I would suggest that this year's theme of generational leadership is merely one aspect of diversity, that of age differences. So with this in mind, I assessed the United States workforce of BAE Systems of just over 45,000 people and allocated them across those 4 demographic groups that Stan Smith identified earlier this morning. At BAE Systems, our U.S. workforce is currently made up of 5% veterans, 53% baby boomers, 33% Gen Xers, and 9% Gen Yers. And in fact, the average age of our employees is 47 years. But these are just statistics, because in my mind, regardless of their particular demographic category, every one of these employees represents our most valuable asset. Without them, we would not be able to protect those who protect us, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. Protect those being the men and women who wear the helmets and the flak jackets and the flight suits and the bell-bottom trousers. And as the President and CEO of the U.S.-based segment of BAE Systems, I assure you that I communicate the same message across the full generational spectrum, from our youngest 18-year-old to our oldest, an 86-year-old employee. And so in assessing my perspective on leading generations in our business, I submit to you that true leadership transcends generational differences. Let me say once more, true leadership transcends the generations. Yes, there are differences among various age groups, and you're going to have ample opportunity to explore these differences at this conference. At BAE Systems, we could spend a lot of time identifying all the unique qualities among our employees. They are, after all, an extremely diverse group. But it is not, but I would argue that this, although this might be interesting, it is not particularly relevant, at least to my leading them on a day-to-day basis. This past week, we bore witness to an historical inauguration of our 44th President of the United States, and I believe that he suggests the very same perspective in his address. As President Obama stated last Tuesday, our challenges may be new. The instruments with which we meet them may be new. But those values upon which our success depends, hard work and honesty, courage and fair play, tolerance and curiosity, loyalty and patriotism, these things are old. These things are true. They have been the quiet force of progress throughout our history. What is demanded then is a return to these truths. What is required of us now is a new era of responsibility, a recognition that we have duties to ourselves, to our nation, and the world, duties that we do not grudgingly accept, but rather seize gladly, firm in the knowledge that there is nothing so satisfying to the spirit, so defining of our character that giving our all to a difficult task. With these words in mind, let me offer 3 characteristics of a leader that I believe resonate with employees, teammates, or members of any group, regardless of their particular generational persuasion. First and foremost, core values are critical, and there is no substitute for integrity and ethical strength. And I would argue that all of us who attend our country's military academies, as well as many other institutions of higher learning around the world who espouse to be leaders, form the moral fibers that will permeate and provide the core strength in the fabric of our entire lives, whether at home, at work, or at play. This year at BAE Systems, we are establishing a global code of conduct. Such a code is not new for our U.S.-based company, but beginning this year, it will be expanded to include all employees worldwide. And when it must encompass all 100,000 of our employees across multiple countries, with their requisite legal and cultural differences, it does not surprise me that it revolves around principles that are not new, but that are in fact very old and hold very true. These 5 principles are accountability, honesty, integrity, openness, and respect. All of our employees around the world will be asked to sign a document acknowledging their receipt, their understanding, and most importantly, their willingness to conduct themselves in accordance with this code of conduct that centers around these 5 principles. And I will sign the same document, which will stand as my commitment to all BAE Systems employees that I pledge to hold myself to the highest standards of ethical behavior. And I assure you that these commitments are being made a part of responsibility of a responsible company to transcend all generational groups and any potential difference. It's one thing to be loyal to a company. It is much, much more important to be loyal to each other. Because frankly, if you were to go back 10 years ago, BAE Systems did not exist. It came as a result of a merger of 2 corporations. But what does endure are the values that we as employees of this company have shared with each other. And it is the leader's responsibility to uphold those values the most. The second fundamental characteristic of a true leader is he or she must have a relevant, impactful vision that they can communicate consistently in order to create followership. So what do I mean by that? As the President of BAE Systems, Inc., I am responsible for growing our business. Now, this is a lot bigger than simply more sales, profit, and cash. In fact, I don't spend much time thinking about the financial aspects of our business, and that may come as a shock to some of you all, and probably to my classmate sitting in the back, Pete DeVos. But the frank matter of it is, what I do spend my time thinking about is how I can clearly explain to every employee how they fit into our strategy and why what they do every day is so important. No matter what year they were born, even the 86-year-old who was born in 1922, there must be some compelling reason for all of our employees to get up every morning and come to work and to do a good job. In my opinion, our employees believe that they are contributing to a larger ideal and making a difference. And as a result, they show up every day, ready to do their job. And while others may suggest that Gen Yers are not as loyal to employers, I disagree. Particularly in today's economic situation, where having a job and meeting income requirements is of basic necessary value, and having the right job that is meaningful and that is in the service of others or contributes to a larger stated purpose is of incredible value. At BAE Systems, we have a credo that we protect those who protect us. And we don't just say it, we mean it, and we live it. And this collective mission and my ability to clearly state it consistently to protect men and women in uniform matters to every employee, right down to the great folks who work in our mailroom. One of these mailroom workers is a gentleman by the name of Art. Art is an African-American, nearly 70 years old. He's been with us for about 25 years and could certainly retire. And he's well known around the office for going out to lunch every day, and I mean every day, to McDonald's for his daily Big and Tasty. He likes it because it has lettuce and tomato on it, apparently. And of course, the requisite French fries to go with the lettuce and tomato. He is a man of consistency, if nothing else, to include his performance. Art, as I mentioned, doesn't have to work. He chooses to work because he's confident that he's making a difference every day working for us. And if you ask anyone around our Rockville headquarters, they know Art, and they know that we can always count on him, day in and day out, to run a tight ship in the mailroom. That's using a little Navy term there. For Art, I would argue that every employee within our company and our industry, whether they are working beyond their retirement age or they are fresh out of high school, it's about far more than just getting a paycheck. It's about doing noble, honorable work, and I consistently communicate this very fact to our employee. The 86-year-old that I mentioned before is a shipyard worker in Norfolk, Virginia, where we run a ship repair facility and a dry dock down there. And this gentleman who I met earlier, or last year, I asked him, why he kept working every day. And he told me because he valued what he was doing. And he does everything from sweep the floors to weld deck plates and make repairs on our ships. And when I ask him how long he's going to continue working, he looks at me like I'd asked him a very strange question, because he hasn't decided that yet. Now, he's 86. All right? He contributes in a way that's remarkable for an 86-year-old, but serves as a tremendous value from a leadership perspective to the 18 and 19-year-olds. He's there every day, he's committed, and he delivers. He leads by example, certainly in an environment where you wouldn't necessarily expect that. The third leadership quality I would like to offer today is that a true leader must be knowledgeable, but also curious, eager to both learn as well as teach others. Let me use myself as an example, that you're always the right age to learn a different skill and to learn in a diverse work environment. I spend about 1/3 of my time every day. In fact, I have a 3x5 card that I carry with me everywhere. On one side it says first things first, and every January 1st I line up the 5 things that I'm going to focus on for the upcoming year. And on the back of it, it has how I'm going to allocate my time. A third on strategy and growth, a third on corporate governance, and a third on leadership development across the company. And every week, I sit down with my administrative assistant and map out that I've been true to that allocation of my time. I had recently an opportunity as part of my leading and leadership development to attend a conference and speak to a group of what we call our emerging leaders. We hire about 100 young people right out of college, primarily engineering, finance, and operations folks, bachelor graduates for the most part. And we put them in a 3-year leadership development program that includes 6-month rotational assignments, a master's degree program, and every summer, the 3 existing cohorts, along with the previous graduating cohort, get together and hold a leadership conference, not unlike this. It's quite an amazing event. 400 or so young people who are talking about leadership, their leadership experiences, and very much like this event, it is the young people teaching each other. Now, I get the honor to go in and usually do the wrap-up conversation. And just like Mr. Wilgus did today, someone introduces me. The gentleman who introduced me this past August at this conference, selected by his peers, was a young man by the name of Vernon Wages. Vernon is an engineer in our San Diego facility. The interesting thing about Vernon is he's deaf. All right? And to watch Vernon with 2 3x5 cards say about the same things that Mr. Wilgus just did, recognizing that he has to engineer every single word. And frankly, because I am a veteran and a veteran Marine cannon cocker, I don't hear so well. And so if I'm not looking directly at someone, I can sometimes not hear them. And I couldn't understand everything Vernon said. But that wasn't particularly important. What I did hear Vernon say is he pronounced my name right, which is a challenge for most people. And more importantly, what Vernon represented. Because of the 400 or so people that were at this conference, that 400 chose Vernon to represent them, which said a heck of a lot to me about how they respect each other and how they value the contributions that each other at that age group makes. And as I go around and I talk to senior leaders at BAE Systems, and they ask me, you know, what are we going to do about the next generation, the Generation Yers? How are we going to deal with this new group? And I tell them real simple. I'm going to hire as many of them as I can. And then I expect the leaders to lead. Right? And in order to lead, they have to value the contributions of all of the folks that work for them. Just like that group did of Vernon. There was an obvious trust that his colleagues put in him, that entire group of young people who recognized that he was not just hearing impaired, he was in fact deaf. It renewed, as I mentioned to you, my strong belief in this youngest generation, reminded me of the fact that everyone is capable of being a leader regardless of any real or assumed limitations we may place upon them as a group, an institution, or a society. Now, in addition to learning and investing in our existing workforce, I challenge all BAE Systems employees to bring along the next generation of leaders. In the aerospace and defense industry, a willingness to teach others is critical to our future. But without a willingness to learn from others and desire to share their unique knowledge, regardless of their age, our employees would never aspire to solving some of the most difficult technical challenges that we face. And we must solve these challenges so that we provide our solutions to our customers, predominantly the armed forces and our first responders, and to keep them safe while they are serving in harm's way. Let me tell you another story about our responsibility to teach, and it goes not to just our employees but the future workforce. I get in trouble from time to time with my industry colleagues who look to the government to solve the workforce issues of the future. Is there a government program out of the Department of Education to turn out more scientists, technical folks, engineers, mathematicians, critical from my perspective for our industry, but also critical for our national security? Frankly, I don't leave that to the U.S. government. That's my responsibility. And what we've done at BAE Systems is we've partnered with something that many of you may know of. a program called FIRST, which stands for Inspiration and Recognition of Science and Technology. It's a high school and junior high school robotics program. And right now, across the United States, in fact, around the world, high school teams and junior high school teams are preparing to start competition, which will start the last week in February. Actually, it'll start in New Hampshire. And we'll finish in the middle of April with a national competition that will fill the Georgia Dome, probably on the order of 30 or 40,000 young people, parents, and mentors. It is very, very important that companies like BAE Systems, and that's why we lead here in the United States in our sponsorship of FIRST, that we actively participate in the development of that young talent. So we typically start in elementary school, migrate to junior high school, and then on to high school with mentoring young people. It is, FIRST is what I call it's football for geeks, to put it simply. And it involves mentors from our company, typically some of these young people just out of school that are mentoring these high school and junior high school students, and working with them to design and develop robots and then compete. It is a tremendous it gives us a tremendous amount of pride because we get a lot out of it in the form of mentoring. And at the same time, over the years, we also attract many of these students to our summer intern programs, scholarship programs through college, and then back to BAE Systems as employees full-time. And it's a great example of one generation teaching the next generation. And we see it as what we need to do to make a difference in our future ability to solve the tough challenges we face as a country and as a community and as a company. At the same time, it provides us tremendous experience in individual leadership. There are certainly other attributes of this program that are important. I offer and of leadership. I offer these three: to be true to your core values and never sacrifice your integrity, to work in service of others and help your teammates understand the value that they contribute to the whole of the enterprise, and maintain an eagerness not only to learn but also share your experiences with those around you, both young and old. Just a few weeks ago, one of our fellow Academy graduates did us all proud. I'm confident you didn't miss what the media deemed the Manhattan Miracle, where Air Force Academy graduate Sully Sullenberger demonstrated extraordinary poise and skill under pressure by successfully landing his Airbus A320 on the Hudson River. Not in the river, mind you, on the river, despite a complete loss of power. Now, being a company that provides flight and engine controls to most of the Boeing aircraft around the world, I was very, very impressed with the captain's skill. Here's a man who had learned everything he could about an airplane, the A320, and was an expert at the art of flying all things, not just the Airbus, but including gliders. Sully was a leader, willing to make life and death decisions as the captain of his plane, and not at his leisure, but in matters of seconds. And his core values told him that he should be the very last person off the plane while water was coming in, walking the aisles and checking the plane twice to be sure no one was left on board. And those values also guided him to get on the rescue boat, immediately grab a clipboard, and began radioing the other boats to get a head count. And he didn't pause until he knew that everyone he was responsible for, everyone on that plane that was in his care, from the 6-month-old baby to the 85-year-old woman, was accounted for and safe. Frankly, that's what leadership is about. Then President-elect Obama called to congratulating following the landing that helped save the lives of all 155 people on board. And Mr. Obama recalled in his remarks on National Service Day how Sullenberger told him, "My crew and I, we were just doing our job. which then prompted Obama to remark that it made me think, if everybody just did their job, whatever that job was, we'd be in pretty good shape. So does it really matter that he was a baby boomer or not? It surely doesn't matter to any of those 155 passengers whose lives he saved that day. Let me finish with an amusing little anecdote to this story for those millennials, which is most of you in the audience, who have a need for speed, who want things now. You will appreciate the fact that inside 2 hours of this story breaking on CNN, you could go on the internet and purchase your own baseball cap with the emblem, "Sully is my co-pilot." Now there is an enterprising individual seizing on an opportunity. I learned an awful lot while I was here at the Naval Academy. But I can tell you it was just the start of the learning process to be an effective leader. So whether you're at the Service Academy or at the University of Maryland or Penn State or RPI or Stanford or Texas and Austin, and I know there's some Texas folks here, recognize that you're on a journey. Leadership doesn't happen, leadership happens. In closing, let me once again borrow a few words from President Obama's inaugural address last Tuesday when he said, "Recall that earlier generations understood that our power alone cannot protect us, nor does it entitle us to do as we please. Instead, these earlier generations knew that our power grows through its prudent use. Our security emanates from the justice of our cause, the force of our example, the tempering qualities of humility and restraint." And I would suggest that spans all generations. In fact, I believe that our 44th president is also saying that true leadership transcends generational differences, and that we have a greater shared future by seeking to find common ground and appreciating our differences while learning from each other regardless of our particular generational label. Thank you very, very much. I'll be glad to take questions, and I leave that up to you, Mr. Wilgus. Perfect. I was very impressed that nobody brought rolls in from the dining hall and started whipping them around at each other, as we were prone to do when I was here. Much more disciplined group.
Question?
Yes, sir. I'd like it if you can recall one leader that you remember when you were young that transcended your generation and affected you, and what did you like about it?
I can tell you, I had many, many mentors. The leader that changed my life the most, other than my father, was a Marine captain by the name of Tom Droughty. And Tom Droughty was my company officer when I was a senior here, when I was a firstie. And he's the one that whose example led me to become a Marine. Not that there was anything wrong with being in the Navy. I love the Navy, but he helped me understand what it was to be a Marine, and I'm forever grateful. His example was extraordinary, and today we are still good friends, nearly 40 years later. Thanks for serving, Sergeant. Hoorah. When you think about leadership, I want you, and you talk about examples, let me just give you a thought. Last November, my wife and I were blessed with our first granddaughter. And I think about the leaders she will come to know, and let's just say positional leaders. The first president she may know, is Barack Obama. It may be that she won't know a president until after she's 8 years old, so to speak. The first president I knew about was Dwight Eisenhower, all right? That's a long time ago. And the first one that I really understood was a president was John F. Kennedy. And then I had the pleasure of serving every president from Lyndon Johnson up until George W. Bush. The point is, the nature of how they will think, my granddaughter will think about leaders and leadership will be shaped by an entirely different group of people than shaped my thinking. But I can tell you this, that at the heart of those leaders are some of the things I just talked about. Honesty, integrity, service-oriented leadership, people who recognize their role as leaders is to serve others. All right? You can't be an effective leader if you don't recognize that what you're really about is serving those who you lead. Because if it's all about you, you won't be leading very long. So it is, when I was thinking about this, coming down here today, but more importantly, as I was thinking about generations, and I think about my son's generation and now my granddaughter, I realized the context in which all of them will think about being leaders is going to be different. The context is going to be different. And their examples are going to be different. They won't have a Captain Droughty. But the fundamentals from generation to generation are almost always the same when it comes to leading. Good luck. I wish you all the best. And again, wicked proud of my colleagues at BAE Systems and what we do to serve those of you who are serving us.